This recipe is for chicken cacciatore, or hunter's chicken. This is the way it's prepared in two of the restaurants where I've been the executive chef. Note that the vegetables are cut a little bit larger than you usually see in home recipes. One reason is that you don't want them to melt into a pile of goop when it's cooking. This isn't a problem in home, you're going to eat it while it's fresh. In a restaurant, it's not going to be fresh, it's going to be reheated. Also, celery root is used instead of regular celery because it's a little bit more robust and it won't melt so easily. Especially important consideration when food is going to be reheated, which all restaurants do with dishes like this because the customer won't wait hours to have it made fresh. In fact, most complex dishes you get in a restaurant are either simplified quick versions or reheated from large batches. There's no way to speed the passage of time in the kitchen, and brazes take time. Okay, let's begin. When the butter foams up, you add mushrooms. In a restaurant, we always begin with the mushrooms previously cooked. It saves time. You're looking for some color on them. If I was using forest mushrooms like porcini, which is what I would usually use, but I know they're difficult to find in America, then I wouldn't need this next step. But we need to develop some flavor on these. So we're going to flambe them with about an ounce of cognac. Okay, the mushrooms have been set aside. We're using about 1½ teaspoons of freshly cracked coarse black pepper over chicken thighs. You do not want to use chicken breasts for this recipe. The ubiquitous chicken breast will not work in cacciatore. It'll be dry and tough and it won't have any flavor. Also, you need the bones in it. You can't use boneless chicken. After that, we're going to add some coarse salt. This seems like a lot of seasoning, but it won't be. By the time the dish is finally finished, it'll be just fine. Now we're going to sprinkle some flour over the top of it and massage it all together to get the flour and the seasonings on both sides of the chicken. Browning them skin side down in olive oil. You notice there is not a lot of flour on the chicken. There is some, just enough to give it a skin, but you don't want them completely basted in flour the way that some cacciatore recipes do. Also, you want to make sure that you leave them in the pan a long time before you turn them so that the skin doesn't come apart and stick to the pan when you try to turn them. Don't move them around, just leave them there for a long time. And I'm doing them in batches. I'm not overcrowding the pan. You know it's done on one side when it comes away easily from the surface of the pan. If it sticks at all, it's not done. Just leave it there until it's cooked enough that it won't stick. And there we have the chicken that's been browned and it's being set off to the side. Now, in the same smoking hot pan, with all of the fat that's in there, I'm going to add 100 grams of tomato sauce. It's a packaged product from Italy. Now, at home you might want to remove some of the chicken fat, drain it off. In a restaurant, we do not do that. Fat is flavor, and we don't care about what your health conditions are. We want to give you the maximum flavor. You want to reduce this until it's almost a tomato paste. Essentially, you're making your own tomato paste by cooking it in the fat at a high temperature. because the pan is so hot, it cooks pretty quickly. Now we're going to add the onion and a little laundry list of other ingredients. Red bell pepper, celery root that's been cut into fairly large pieces, some carrot, and fennel. And finally, some fresh tomato. And this is going to be cooked for quite a while. You want to get really good caramelization on this before you proceed. Okay, this has been about 15 solid minutes of cooking on a medium-high heat, with occasional stirring to keep it from sticking and burning at the bottom. By the way, this is not a Teflon pan. Now I'm going to glaze it with a little bit of red wine first. The total amount of red wine we're going to use is about 350 milliliters. Just adding a little bit right now. Now we're going to add in 8 cloves of garlic whole. Not going to break those up. Also, this is a yellow chili from Italy. It's spicy, but it's not real spicy. And I have one of those that's been cut up. I did not remove the seeds because I like my cacciatore pretty spicy. Now it's deglazed pretty well. Now I'm going to add in the rest of the wine. And the mushrooms from the first part. We're going to cook this to reduce it by about half before we add the chicken back in. The reason we leave the garlic whole is that we want people to be able to remove it if they don't want garlic in it. Of course, some of the flavor is going to go through anyway, but you don't get a bite of garlic in your mouth if you don't want it. Now we're going to add a teaspoon of dried rosemary, a teaspoon of dried oregano, and a teaspoon of dried basil. Now you could use fresh herbs, and in fact, that's probably what you should do, but this is a restaurant recipe, and in restaurants, they rarely use fresh herbs. Why? It costs more. Dry herbs are cheap. The flavor will be just fine. It will be excellent. So you've added the herbs, going to give it a stir. This is already starting to thicken up, and now we're going to add the chicken back to it. We're going to add the pieces skin side up originally, along with all the juices that were in the pan. Now we're going to put the lid on it. Keep it at a simmer for about 20 minutes. When 20 minutes is up, you're going to move the lid, turn over each piece of chicken. Let's do it. And you put the lid back on and continue braising for another 20 minutes. Okay, another 20 minutes has passed. Remove the lid. Flip the chicken over one more time. Now we're going to let the sauce reduce the chicken in it until the sauce is thick. How thick? Well, just depends on how thick you like it. Also going to add a little bit of parsley. Just let it sit until it's as thick as you like. Then plate it up. Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.